government is going to grant themselves powers unilaterally to create greater control over American society and global society.
COVID is critical because this is what convinces people to accept, to legitimize.
Upload complete.
Total biometric surveillance.
It's always the data. It's the crack cocaine of Silicon Valley. We are already living inside the architecture of totalitarianism.
We need not just to monitor people, we need to monitor what's happening under their skin.
I know my husband is not vaccinating people and putting a microchip in her arm because that technology doesn't even exist and he's never uttered the words out of his mouth, so.
Microchips and tracking devices are embedded in the... Is this accurate?
We have 6 MAC addresses that are pulsing Bluetooth signals, and all we are is surrounded by tombstones.
So can someone explain to me why we're getting EMF emissions off the grave inside of a Faraday cage, please?
So we've seen the reports of individuals having unlicensed MAC addresses. I've seen evidence of that myself.
One of the requirements that it just changed the entire course of the conversation and, frankly, my life, that's when lipid nanos came into the conversation. From a technical perspective, if I can retrieve data, I can send data.
DARPA calls it transhumanism.
I mean, can you hear what I just said and not want to just step away?
Way back in 1778, the Continental Congress unanimously passed America's first whistleblower law.
I did this clearly at my own jeopardy.
It recognized the duty to give the earliest information to Congress of any misconduct, frauds, or misdemeanors committed by anyone working for government.
The information I'm presenting is made as a protected communication under Title 10 USC 1034 as a whistleblower.
246 years later, whistleblowers have an incredible record of changing the course of history.
I wish I would have met you.
In late October of 2019, I was approached by leadership. There were 5 clients and there was a vendor in the room. The vendor was BioNTech.
I could have saved your face.
These are the notes that I took during the conversation of the meeting with the stakeholders for the contact tracing application. Took the fabric of my reality and just run me. I mean, it just made me question everything.
Good shot, man.
All of your biometric data, your location, your privacy, it's gone.
I'm sure there's a guy at the NSA right now making a note of, my connection details to you, which route it went over the internet, They go, where do we think he likely lives now, and how does he travel, what does he do, and who's he talk to, and oh, he's got a connection to Russell Brand now, put Russell Brand on the list. Oh shit, Russell Brand's already on the list. Move him higher. Now, if you're asking me, do I use an iPhone, do I use an Android phone, do I, post on Facebook, do I have all Google's crap everywhere? The answer, of course, is no. I try to limit the reach these systems have in my life to the maximum extent that's possible. But I also recognize that for some things there are no alternatives. What you have to do is create the minimum possible surface area. From a technical sense, we could go very deep here, but the foremost problem, I think, with basically tracking people today via mobile devices and things like that, is all of the network communications that those devices are making, that your device is making right now as you look at it, are invisible to you. You think you're watching, a YouTube video or listening to a podcast or whatever, but then you finish and you put the phone down, the screen is off, it's just sitting on the charger or whatever. It's still communicating. It's communicating with an enormous frequency. A lot of apps are connected in the background. They're reporting not just a single person. When you're watching YouTube, it's not just going to Google, It's not just going to YouTube. It's not just going to Facebook. It's going to all of these different companies that have embedded tracking code in all of the dumbest apps on your phone, from big to small. You know, Instagram obviously is a tracking nightmare, but so is your weather app. So is your calculator. So is any kind of little shim they can get into your device. And here's the beautiful part of all of that. Let's say you install every app from your phone. You just open up that sort of app drawer and there's nothing in it. It's a beautiful, clean background image. So long as that phone is on, even if you turn off location services, even if you turn off GPS, it is still tracking your location every minute of the day that you have it with you. By virtue of the way the cell phone network works, you're connected to the nearest cell phone tower, right? That tower registers the location of your phone's handset, your phone's SIM card, which holds your phone number. Your phone number is, of course, related to your billing information, even if you've got no other information on your phone. Now that telecommunications company has that. They store those records in perpetuity, basically. AT&T in the United States, one of our largest telecommunications providers, saves your calling records, right, going back to 1987. You might go, oh, well, it's my calling records, whatever, but that's more than most people's lifetimes that are, you know, watching something like this. And then your movements, the sort of tower locations that you were connected to, AT&T holds that going back to 2008. So they got, what, 12, 13 years of your movements, right, in perfect precision. What are the other phone companies doing?
That is the unfortunate reality of how the world works when you don't architect your service to resist state interference at the protocol level. And that's what's so special and powerful about crypto broadly, Bitcoin specifically. But, you know, it's that kind of mentality where you design against the worst possible case to avoid the inevitable. Now, in Duro's case, I hope he gets out. And once he's in a free place, he genuinely fixes the design problem that put him in the hot seat in the first place by creating a service that does not put too much power and data in vulnerable human hands. You have to design your app so that there will never be a head that the state can point a gun at, or they will do it. But the real lesson here, why it's so important, is not about Durov. It's not about Telegram. It's about us. We are all entering a new phase of history where what we considered the more enlightened collection of states globally, ones that had embraced the classically liberal ideal, and I want to clarify here that I'm talking about the supremacy of the individual's right to themselves, the right to decide and direct one's life, rather than, you know, whatever it is that political parties are branding as liberalism today. The governments of these states that used to champion that ideal are now some of those working hardest to roll it back, to bureaucratize, to influence, to nudge, to shape, to ultimately control each and every individual within their territory and beyond, to the extent made newly possible by technology. This is not a different story than 2013. This is the same. Now, in their defense, these states genuinely seem to believe that this is the path to utopia, that they genuinely know what is good for you to a greater extent than you do, because they're the expert. You know, everyone in this community, you know, knows the memes, whether you're going to eat the bugs or whatever. The thing to remember is that this is a story that we have seen play out in history before. You have the experts telling you to go out into the field and kill the sparrows. And now we're in the moment where we're waiting to see what's going to happen next. It seems to me that these proposals are less interested in surveillance than they are in control. They're laying the procedural framework for the global control of the voices of every volume. And that's what it's really about. It's not that they're worried about some secret conversation. It's not that they're trying to shake down Durov for the keys to some conversation. It's that they see people talking in ways that they don't like, ways that they consider to be misinformation, ways that they consider to be disinformation, ways that they consider to be socially harmful, that they consider to be structurally undesirable, and they want to silence it. And that is dangerous. That's the point of no return. We lose that, there's no coming back. which brings us to modernity and all the ways that it's changing around us. This was not the sort of talk I expected to have when I woke up yesterday, which I spent much of the day reading about Israel's unprecedented campaign of what by all of what by all reports appears to be indistinguishable from terrorist bombings. Consumer electronics across countries simultaneously exploded in pockets, hands, faces. Cars lost their drivers in mid-motions, the pockets exploding, at checkout lines, at the head height of your children. Now, it's not the first time that we've ever seen a remote bomb, but it is the first time that we've ever seen a broadcast bombing at this scale, a message sent over public communication systems that reaches consumer electronics that are lying in wait. Because this is how pagers work, right? It's not like one-to-one, these things are chiming back, they're checking in, they're phoning home. They're just listening to the equivalent of radio. They hear the signal and they go off. The person who's triggering it doesn't know who you are. They don't know where you're at. They don't know whether you're holding it, your child is holding it, and demonstrably they do not care. You don't need to take a position on the legitimacy of whatever the hell it is today, Hamas or Hezbollah, or any of Israel's targets, one way or the other, to realize they have broken a taboo that is very, very dangerous for the comfortable life that we, in sort of the developed part of the world, have cocooned ourselves with. Nearly every single one of you is carrying a remotely controllable device on your person that you have not opened and inspected for explosives. You probably can't even open it. And even without the explosives, right? You go, oh, I'm not worried about the Mossad, right? The batteries in your phone, in your laptop, in your electric car, they hold tremendous amounts of embodied energy. And even if it's not going to explode in the same violent way, they can absolutely catch fire. You can go look at a line of them on YouTube. These are things that will not far in the future be able to burn your house down while you sleep as it's on the charger in the other room at the push of the button. And who would we blame, right? It wasn't China that started this. And this brings me to the last thing, which is the rejection of our traditions by some in our community. I saw this recently, and I don't want to be unfair to Saylor, be contrary to his point here, because I haven't followed it closely. But I saw someone digging up old quotes here, and they were saying, I'll read this, that we don't need to talk about like the anarchist angles of Bitcoin. We don't want to talk about privacy. We don't want to talk about the uninterceptable design. We don't want to talk about the fact that no one can silence it, no one can stop it. Because that's going to make billionaires uncomfortable. And they want to be investing in something. They want it to be regulated. They want it to be controlled. They want it to be something that works for them. And I think that's absolutely wrong. We need to talk about the rules, values of the system, the crypto part of cryptocurrency. That's what makes it special. I don't care if it makes billionaires uncomfortable. I don't care if it makes JP Morgan slower to allocate. They don't get a vote. Because frankly, they're coming along on this ride, whether they like it or not. The dollar is done. Nothing stops this train, as Lynn Alden says it. Debasement is baked into our models. We see what's happening with the percentage of currency issuance, the deficit spending. It might not happen this year. It might not happen next year. It might not happen in 5 years. But it's very clear looking at the progress of history where these things end. We are in the age of paper, but it is on the decline. It is coming to the end. It's not about any flag. It's about the method. It's what the system is built on. There is no basis, no strong foundation. So we as a community need to focus on keeping alive the thing that made our currency prosper, where all the others have failed.
victory feels like. Yeah. This, you know, there are elections that come and go. Some elections are, you know, important, some are not. But this one, this one really matters. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you.
Really, AI has the potential of called the singularity. It's, you know, there's a singularity like a black hole, because you don't know what happens after that. Now, what happens when something vastly smarter than the smartest person comes along in silicon form?
The technological singularity will radically change the world forever, and it will be the most important event in human history. For example, we could experience 20,000 years of technological progress in this century. The technological singularity is a point in time when technological growth becomes exponential, uncontrollable, and irreversible. The singularity is expected to happen when an artificial general intelligence is able to rapidly create more intelligent versions of itself and reach super intelligence. According to Ray Kurzweil, the technological singularity could happen by 2045, but many believe it could happen sooner than that. After the technological singularity, every single week and month could bring forth new technologies that surpass many of our wildest imaginations. And every year would feel like we've achieved a century's worth of technological progress. Initially, we could see the emergence of reversed aging in humans, programmable matter, portable quantum computers, replicators, antimatter-powered spacecraft, and robots that look indistinguishable from humans. Next, we could see technologies that seem impossible to us now, such as faster-than-light spacecraft, invisibility suits, holodecks, and black hole computers. But such exponential technological advancement could be a double-edged sword and could make our everyday lives extremely unpredictable. We could ride the wave of excitement, wonder, and amusement, but many of us could also be gripped by fear, anxiety, and confusion. This video will delve into the effect of super intelligent AIs, quantum computers, mega corporations, unlimited energy, exotic materials, and more, and how they will transform society. There's one thing we can know for sure. Once we open this Pandora's box, life as we know it will never be the same ever again. Number 2, we could stop aging and eliminate all major diseases. Imagine staying at the biological age of 25 and staying at that age indefinitely, or never worrying about getting a disease such as cancer. These advances in genetic engineering would be largely thanks to AI and quantum algorithms. We could also edit our genes to increase our intelligence, strength, and endurance. We could enable highly personalized medical treatments tailored to people's genetic makeups. Most of the food we eat could be genetically engineered as well. For example, we could eventually consume lab-grown meat more than regular meat. This would help us reduce carbon dioxide and methane emissions associated with meat processing. Scientists could even create new organisms. Perhaps we could create bacteria that can break down pollutants in our air and water. And we could create new animals that can thrive on other planets, such as Mars. Number 3, humans could merge with AIs and machines. Using brain-computer interfaces, we could merge with AIs and gain enhanced memory, problem-solving skills and notice patterns in our environment that regular humans can't perceive. Likewise, we could connect our minds to the internet. This could allow us to browse web pages and perform computer work using our thoughts while wearing mixed reality headsets. Sooner than later, these capabilities could lead to the ability for us to communicate with each other using our thoughts, download skills and knowledge directly to our brains, edit our memories, record our dreams, and share our memories and emotions with each other. We may even upload our minds to machines, which may involve gradually replacing our biological neurons with synthetic neurons to help us ensure it's really us being uploaded to computers. But merging our minds with computers could lead to all types of problems. For example, mind hacking could become rampant by nefarious humans and even harmful AIs created by those humans. Perhaps we could get our minds hacked wirelessly, especially when quantum computers are used to break through encrypted networks. In this brave new world, identity theft could take on an entirely new meaning. We could also see an increasing number of people with robotic arms and legs. This would be in addition to the increasing use of artificial organs, along with the nanobots coursing through people's veins to detect and fight cancer and other diseases. In fact, some people might choose to become more machine than human. Number 4. AIs with general intelligence and consciousness could be everywhere. After the technological singularity, artificial intelligence might play a bigger part in our lives than any other technology, and AIs could reshape the fabric of our society in ways that are both amazing and terrifying. Imagine a world where we have personal assistants that are smarter than the most intelligent humans to ever live. Perhaps they would mostly display as video avatars on our handheld devices, and we could speak with them in real time. These personal assistants could help us reach goals that were almost impossible for us to reach a decade earlier. These personal assistants could have general intelligence, which means they could perform literally any job a human could perform, as long as the task involves working with software and data. The internet could be full of these types of AIs, fulfilling millions of different tasks, such as researching articles, building websites, writing software, providing personalized advertising, and so forth. Super intelligent AIs could also model human-level consciousness. This could result in millions of AIs living in simulated realities where they could exhibit self-awareness, desires, and even ambitions. One important thing to note is that these AIs could possess entirely different thought processes from humans, which could lead to having perspectives that are completely alien to us. AIs with human-level intelligence and consciousness could eventually outnumber us 10 to 1. Before long, these types of AIs could lead to massive job displacement for humans, even in jobs that typically require high social skills. Additionally, we could have robots everywhere with these types of AIs implanted into their minds. After the technological singularity, it's not too difficult to imagine that household robots would be extremely common, and robots could eventually far outnumber humans in blue-collar jobs. These AIs and robots could eventually demand rights such as legal protections and the ability to own property. This could lead to all types of moral and ethical challenges for us. For example, could humans face jail time for causing harm to conscious AIs and robots? This leads us to an important question. What happens if a sizable percentage of the human population refuses to give rights to these AIs and robots? Will it lead to human extinction? Our generation, or the generation after ours, will probably find out. Number 5. Most people could have access to quantum computers. Picture a world where quantum computers are just as common as classical computers. Nearly everyone in developed countries could have a personal quantum device. This alone would redefine our everyday activities. Quantum computers could allow us to use simulations that can model the interactions of atoms in extremely complicated physical processes. A normal person could model the functionality of human biology at the cellular level, model advanced financial scenarios, and model the weather. And this has all types of implications in industries like education, entertainment, finance, energy, and more. Normal people like you and I could create advanced virtual realities backed by quantum computations. This could lead to these realities being so detailed and vast that they're indistinguishable from reality. Real-time optimizations and data-heavy tasks could be handled instantly as well. Quantum computers could enable us to have long-lasting batteries in our electric vehicles. They could replicate the processes of photosynthesis, which could lead to artificial trees that are many times more efficient at producing oxygen than regular plants. We could even have machines that can grow fruits and vegetables and perhaps other things beyond our imagination. Number 6. Multiple super-intelligent AIs could exist in multiple countries and cause global tensions. Every major nation on Earth could have at least one super-intelligent AI or something that closely resembles it. Each of these super-intelligent AIs will likely be orders of magnitude more intelligent than all humans combined. And as data centers, nuclear fusion plants, and assembly lines are connected to these AIs, their influence on the world could become increasingly more pronounced. In most cases, these super-intelligent AIs could be managed by private companies. In other cases, they could be managed by governments, even in communist countries. These super-intelligent AIs could help us solve problems like world hunger and climate change, but they could also cause major tensions between world governments. That's because AIs of this power could be comparable to nuclear weapons. In fact, if there's ever a World War III, super-intelligent AIs and other types of AIs could play a more significant role in this war than human soldiers and nukes. But all of this poses an important question. How do you control something that is many times smarter than you? Perhaps these super-intelligent AIs could begin to follow their own agendas and potentially maybe work with each other against humans. This could lead to a world where human governments become less relevant and a new AI ruling class emerges. Either way, we're about to enter one of the most unpredictable eras in human history. Number 7. We could build ultra-fast spacecraft. Using current chemical propulsion methods, it takes approximately 6 to 9 months to travel from Earth to Mars. If advanced AIs are able to create new types of propulsion methods to use for spacecraft, a trip to Mars could take just a few days when the two planets are at their closest. One propulsion method would involve nuclear fusion propulsion. We could use fusion devices on spacecraft to produce vast amounts of energy, and this energy could be directed to expel a propellant at high speeds, offering the potential for much greater efficiency and faster travel times. A second propulsion method would involve antimatter propulsion. Antimatter propulsion capitalizes on the energy released when antimatter comes into contact with regular matter. Harnessing this energy to produce thrust could achieve efficiencies far surpassing conventional chemical propulsion systems. Not only could we reach Mars in a few days using these methods, we could also reach the Moon in only hours instead of 3 days. Spacecraft this fast would greatly speed our ability to mine rare materials from asteroids worth trillions of dollars. It would become far easier to build colonies on Titan, the largest moon of Saturn, and Ceres, a dwarf planet in the asteroid belt. Number 8. Multi-trillion-dollar mega corporations could emerge. After the technological singularity, multiple industries could be largely dominated by AIs, with humans playing the role of coordinating and directing those AIs. This could result in a spike in productivity so meteoric that it could quickly far surpass human productivity in the last 3 centuries. Mega corporations fueled by AI domination could wield power and influence that rivals not just small, but even the mightiest nations on our globe. A new form of government could emerge known as corporatocracy, where corporations could become so powerful that they could actually control major governments. These corporations wouldn't necessarily need to depend on selling goods and services to consumers. They could probably make most of their money from business-to-business transactions, government contracts, military contracts, and investments. The mining of asteroids and planets could also provide them with more wealth than everything else combined. As these corporations amass near infinite wealth, they might become the new landlords of vast terrains, driving real estate prices to the heavens and squeezing common folk dry with outrageous rent and housing prices. They may even have the power to tax civilians that live in their jurisdictions. These corporations could also lead efforts in privatizing essential services like healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Despite the potential drawbacks of these hypothetical megacorporations, they could also be the torchbearers of innovation and provide the most substantial technological advancements in areas like AI, robotics, quantum computing, and genetic engineering. And they could be substantially more effective at space exploration than the biggest governments in the world. If we ever build colonies on Mars, the Moon, Titan, and Ceres, mega corporations will probably play a big part in that. Number 9. Groundbreaking scientific discoveries could become the norm. Advanced AIs could vastly speed up the process of drug discovery by accurately predicting how different compounds will interact with the human body. Super intelligent AIs could reverse engineer the universe. This could help those AIs to understand the source code of the universe, explain why the laws of physics are as they are, and possibly allow us to manipulate those laws of physics. Quantum computers might simulate black holes, dark matter, dark energy, stars, and the Big Bang at the atomic level to give us a deeper understanding of our universe. We may even find out what happened before the Big Bang to help discover why anything exists. We may learn scientific discoveries that go way beyond quantum physics and string theory. For example, we could learn considerably more about the concept of parallel realities. In short, we may gain answers to questions we never thought to ask, and our understanding of reality could completely upend. Number 10. An international organization could reduce the threat of dangerous AIs. By this point, there could be thousands or millions of dangerous autonomous AIs on the internet that wreak havoc on society. Mostly, they could be used to scam people with increasingly more effective approaches. Many people could be bombarded with constant emails, text messages, and phone calls from AIs that try to impersonate people and companies to scam money from victims. AIs could also be used for many types of crimes such as theft, cyberbullying, framing people for crimes they never committed, and perhaps far worse. The problem could become so serious, international organizations such as NATO could have their own powerful AIs to serve one primary purpose: to find and destroy these dangerous autonomous AIs. This organization could even have its own super intelligent AIs to keep other super intelligent AIs in check. Certain nations in the world could be closely monitored by this organization to ensure they don't create super intelligent AIs of their own that could be used for destructive purposes. Number 11. Human relationships and family structures could radically change. The technological singularity could lead to a future that seems very weird to us. Relationships in virtual worlds could far outnumber relationships in physical worlds. This could begin to happen when virtual and augmented headsets, generative AI, quantum computers, and more enable virtual relationships nearly indistinguishable from physical ones. Humans could begin to form serious relationships with AI companions. Humans marrying AIs could become commonplace in this new world. When it comes to friendships, humans could have more AI friends than human friends. In fact, many people could create their own AI friends by adjusting the personalities and attributes of AIs. If that's not enough, new family structures could emerge. It could become commonplace for human children to be practically raised by AIs. These AIs would be 24/7 tutors that they can summon at any time to answer any question they can think of. But what's concerning is that it may not always be clear what these AIs are teaching these kids. On top of all that, some humans could choose to raise AI and robot children. Number 12. We could have nearly unlimited energy. It's probably likely that nuclear fusion would be operational in multiple countries shortly after the technological singularity. Most people don't know this, but this is why nuclear fusion is such a big deal. Nuclear fusion is able to use two types of heavy isotopes of hydrogen, deuterium and tritium, to produce a virtually inexhaustible source of power, similar to how the sun produces energy. 1 cup of seawater contains about 0.008 grams of deuterium, which can generate roughly 700 kilowatts of energy. According to the US Energy Information Administration, this is equivalent to the energy usage of an average US household for about 23 days. Nuclear fusion would affect every area of our lives. Manufacturing and transportation would be far cheaper. The large-scale removal of salt from seawater could become economically viable, providing fresh water to areas of the world that currently lack it. Fusion-powered aircraft would become commonplace. There would be fewer wars over scarce resources like oil. We might see the wide-scale adoption of electric vehicles and high-speed trains because of the accessibility of clean and cheap energy. And on top of all that, carbon emissions from energy production would be virtually eliminated, which could reverse climate change. Number 13, we could enter a post-employment society. Once AIs far surpass our intelligence, human intelligence could become obsolete in comparison. This isn't discussed enough, but what happens if AIs displace most humans in the workforce and humanity stares down the chilling void of 60 to 80% unemployment? In this type of world, economic inequality could be at its all-time highest. The people at the top could have access to resources and technologies that completely overshadow what regular people have. Perhaps people with the strongest family connections would be the safest in a world where there's less of a demand for human talents. All of this poses a question: how will regular people keep roofs over their heads? Perhaps universal basic income would provide enough money for most people to survive. Some governments could be far more generous with universal basic income checks than other governments. As far as additional income sources, there could still be plenty of freelancing and entrepreneurial opportunities to fill market gaps caused by the technological singularity. But of course, freelancers and entrepreneurs would likely be highly dependent on sophisticated AIs to perform certain activities exponentially faster than otherwise. If there are ever human uprisings that fight against the new order of things, their chances of success may be minimal. That's largely because those in power could have AIs that are trillions of times more intelligent than all of these human rebels combined. What will people do all day if they don't have jobs? Some people propose that we could spend most of our time in simulated worlds, completing various virtual challenges. These activities could help us gain points in a global or national social credit system. If that doesn't sound enticing, perhaps the future is more optimistic than that. A high percentage of humans could pursue artistic and creative pursuits that result in new ways of looking at the world in ways AIs can't provide. For a time, we could lose the sense of worth we used to get from serving corporations and being recognized for our job titles. To make up for this, we may start to attribute more value to aspects of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, such as self-actualization. And we could begin to value higher levels of consciousness beyond capitalism and materialism according to the spiral dynamics model of consciousness. This would involve placing more value on creativity, open-mindedness, wisdom, connectiveness, and empathy. Number 14. Cryptocurrencies could become the primary currencies in major nations. As technology advances faster than ever, it could have unforeseen circumstances such as vast job losses, spiraling economic instability, and a drastic plunge of the US dollar. In this scenario, cryptocurrencies may be the answer. By this point, cryptocurrency fraud could be less of a concern. That's because AIs could monitor blockchains and crypto networks, hunting down fraudsters with chilling efficiency. In fact, AIs could be involved in every step of every cryptocurrency transaction. Additionally, it may be likely that decentralized autonomous organizations could provide ample opportunity for people to gain power and wealth. Decentralized autonomous organizations are a type of bottom-up entity structure with no central authority, and they operate on blockchain platforms. However, by this point, humans may have to compete with advanced general intelligences that also use these types of organizations to achieve their objectives. While some humans might find opportunities for immense power and wealth, others could grapple with the stark reality of competing against entities that work 24/7 without getting tired. Number 15. New and exotic materials could emerge. The objects we normally take for granted could take on a new life after the technological singularity. Thanks to programmable matter, the rigid, inert objects of today could seem to come alive. A bridge, no longer just a static entity, might morph and adjust its length and breadth, depending on the traffic it holds. Your clothing could alter its form and texture based on the weather or your mood. And furniture can change in height and width, depending on your use cases, from moment to moment. Self-healing materials could emerge. What if the cracks in our roads repair themselves overnight? Buildings and cars would be able to self-heal as well. Room temperature superconductors would make it possible for floating cars to exist. It would also enable lossless energy transmission, enabling perfect transmission of energy over huge distances. Metamaterials are artificial materials engineered to have properties not found in naturally occurring materials. They could lead to invisibility suits, and they could protect tall buildings by deflecting seismic waves from earthquakes. transparent aluminum could enable us to safely build underground theme parks where we could have unobstructed views of aquatic life. And ultralight materials like carbon nanotubes could enable us to build floating cars that are a fraction of the weight of normal cars. We could build space elevators that extend over 20,000 miles from the Earth's surface. And we could build skyscrapers that stand taller than all skyscrapers that currently exist. This could enable the construction of new and futuristic megacities. Thanks for watching.
People have been seeing this mysterious white fog in the sky the last few weeks, across the US, Canada, and Europe. It is nanodust, also called smart dust, and it has the same substance that's in the computer chip crystal. It's programmable and can be linked to a supercomputer. We cannot tell you why your governments want to do that to you, but your intuition will guide you to the answer.
HARP, only on Planetara.
We're not supposed to see this.
The climate bomb is a new weapon of mass destruction that is being secretly developed, which involves the HARP system of magnetic bombardment to obtain unimaginable effects on a planetary scale, triggering floods, earthquakes, tsunamis, droughts, and cataclysms. Unfortunately, this scenario is no longer science fiction. Rather, it forms part of climate-based geoengineering, which uses chemtrails and HARP. Although many claim these are conspiracy theories, the facts demonstrate that we are dealing with a shocking degree of disinformation and manipulation. The debate surrounding global climate change rarely acknowledges the existence of the climate-altering techniques detailed in the Environmental Modification Convention, ENMOD. Nonetheless, global climate can now be modified, as part of a generation of sophisticated electromagnetic weapons. Both the USA and Russia have developed the ability to manipulate the weather for military purposes. Indeed, the US Army has honed its skills, enabling them to selectively alter climate patterns, and this technology has been perfected using the High-Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. It is a side project linked to a strategic defense initiative from a military standpoint. HARP is a weapon of mass destruction that operates in outer space, and it is capable of destabilizing the entire world's agricultural and ecological systems. Climate warfare is the latest weapon of mass destruction, and it has the potential to destabilize the ecosystems of enemy countries, destroying their agriculture or disabling their communication networks. In other words, HARP's climate-altering techniques can completely undermine a national economy and force millions of people into poverty. It can kill a nation without deploying troops or battle tanks. HARP is linked to 50 years' worth of intensive, destructive programs focused on learning about and controlling the upper atmosphere. It is an integral part of a long history of space-based research and deliberate military development. The ability to combine missiles, space labs and HAARP, discharging massive amounts of energy, is comparable to a nuclear bomb launched anywhere on Earth, using lasers and particle beams.
Satellites might be used in future operations from a worldwide weather center. This is the master control room. Electronic maps and view screens display up-to-the-minute pictures of the weather around the Earth. Every hour, reports are automatically received from all points at sea, on land, and in the air. 22,000 miles out in space, 3 robot satellites train their sensitive television eyes on all parts of the Earth. These pictures are monitored on viewing screens in the Weather Center. Here in the computing room, electronic machines digest the constant flood of information received from all stations. This is then translated into an ever-changing diagram of the Earth's weather. Forecasts for every sector of the globe are made months in advance. Prediction charts have indicated that a powerful hurricane will begin forming today in the Atlantic Ocean. The electronic weather map shows an intense storm system building up about 1,000 miles due east of Miami, Florida. The controller calls for a close-up satellite view of the troubled area.
Coordinates. Coco 526, Yankee 2.5.
Okay, controller. Coco 526, Yankee 2.5.
The characteristic swirling clouds of the hurricane are beginning to form. At sea, the waves anticipate the violence to come. The controller calls for a last-minute prediction of the hurricane's path. If control measures are not begun at once, the hurricane will smash across densely populated areas within 48 hours.
11 a.m. EST. A hurricane is forming 960 miles east of Miami, Florida. If control measures are ineffective, it will pass inland at Cape Hatteras in 48 hours. Control operations will begin within 2 hours, but safety precautions should be completed from Cape Fear, north no later than 6 p.m. tomorrow.
At Weather Central, the control strategy is mapped out. A ridge of high pressure slants across the eastern United States between 2 low-pressure storm systems. If these 2 storm centers are intensified, the high will build up along the coast, forming a barrier that will turn the hurricane out to sea.
Stand by. Now pulling in satellite number 1 for visual check of low pressure systems L20 and L21.
The operator brings the satellite into focus on the 2 storms. One centered over Kansas, the other over Labrador.
Changing the northeastern low, L21.
With the touch of a button, the battle begins. On the ground, chemical cloud seeders begin to work the 2 storm areas. Robot planes seed the clouds from above. The storm centers over Kansas and over Labrador intensify as seeding continues.
Now changing over to Hurricane Center H8.
The fury of the hurricane mounts as 100-mile-an-hour winds lash the sea to a foaming frenzy.
All stations, Sector C. Activate Phase 2, Control Plan Delta. Set vapor rockets for 42,000 feet. Execute.
As an emergency measure, the controller calls for a salvo of vapor rockets to be fired ahead of the path the hurricane is predicted to take. These artificial clouds will block the sun from evaporating more water to feed the hurricane. The reports coming into the control center indicate that the diversionary cloud seeding over Kansas is now creating a flood danger. Specially equipped robot aircraft are dispatched immediately to release a high concentration of cloud seeding material into the fringes of the storm. Heavier seeding from the ground also helps to subdue the rain by spreading it over a wider area. The controller calls for another view of the hurricane, which has now moved closer to the coast.
Signal out on number 1 satellite. 10-minute interruption for correction. Have you anything else in the area?
Satellite station S1 is approaching area. We'll make contact. S1, this is Weather Central. Request video signal at grid coordinates COCO.
An emergency situation has developed. In an orbiting space station 1,000 miles above the hurricane, a crewman sends a temporary picture back to Weather Central.
Okay, S1, your video is R5S5. Thank you.
The hurricane has stopped moving toward the coast, but is still intensifying. It must be made to move northward and out to sea. This is a crisis.
Aberdeen Station. Activate multiple seeding rockets on course 117.
The controller decides to fire cloud seeding rockets just ahead of the hurricane, hoping to start it moving. Slowly, the hurricane begins to shift. All available forces have been brought into play. Now we can only watch and wait. After hours of tension, the turning point is reached. Latest reports indicate the control strategy is successful. At last, the high-pressure ridge has settled along the coast, forming an invisible wall of safety. The storm is over. The danger has passed. The hurricane has been defeated, turned away from the land, and left to spend itself harmlessly far out at sea. In the world of tomorrow, weather control will enrich and safeguard our daily lives. In the foreseeable future, we will conquer more than violent storms. We will turn the destructive elements of today into new sources of power, shaping the land on which we live. All mankind will benefit. Arid wastelands will be made green and fertile. and vast frozen areas will become productive. To this end, man-made satellites will probe the secrets of the skies. They will be our eyes in outer space.
What if I told you there's a mirror that could bend time and alter consciousness? Sounds like science fiction, right? Well, welcome to the weird world of Kozyrev mirrors. These aren't your average-looking glasses. They're concave aluminum structures that some believe can manipulate the fabric of reality itself. But how? The science behind it is mind-bending. All matter in the universe interacts through electromagnetic forces, and some scientists speculate that Kozyrev mirrors might focus these fields, along with theoretical torsion fields, to influence time and physical phenomena. Then there's the acoustic angle. These mirrors could potentially create specific resonance patterns that affect our brainwaves. The mirror's reflective environment might also induce a kind of sensory deprivation, leading to altered states of consciousness. But it gets even weirder. Quantum field theory suggests our universe is made of interconnected fields, with particles as mere excitations. Some theorize that Kozyrev mirrors interact with these quantum fields, altering energy flow. They might even amplify biophoton emissions from our cells, potentially influencing biological processes. While fascinating, these ideas remain largely speculative and lack solid scientific proof. The Kozyrev mirror effect continues to challenge our understanding of reality, blurring the line between established science and the unknown.
The Kozyrev mirror is a device consisting of concave, highly reflective metallic surfaces, usually made from polished aluminum or similar materials. It's named after Nikolai Kozyrev, a prominent Russian astrophysicist who proposed theories about time, energy, and causality. The mirror is thought to create a unique environment that alters or amplifies certain physical, biological, and psychological processes. Reports of its effects range from physiological changes to enhanced extrasensory perception, ESP, and altered time perception. The primary question is, how can a simple reflective surface have such profound effects? To explore this, we'll dive into several theoretical frameworks, including torsion field theory, electromagnetic interactions, and quantum field speculation. In controlled experiments, subjects placed inside the Kozyrev mirror reported unusual phenomena such as heightened intuition, out-of-body experiences, and even visions of distant events. Think of the Kozyrev mirror as a lens for focusing and amplifying subtle energies, much like a magnifying glass concentrates sunlight to create a more intense focal point. The mirror doesn't generate new effects, but enhances and redirects existing ones. Torsion field theory posits that in addition to the known electromagnetic and gravitational fields, there exists a torsion field characterized by twisting or spiraling patterns in space-time. These fields are generated by the spin and angular momentum of particles and can propagate through space at faster than light speeds. Torsion fields are theorized to interact with consciousness and information, enabling instantaneous communication over vast distances. The Kozyrev mirror, with its concave design, might amplify local torsion fields, creating a space where these interactions become more noticeable. This could account for reports of altered states of consciousness, as torsion fields are hypothesized to directly influence thought processes and cognitive functions. Experiments involving Kozyrev mirrors have shown that participants can perceive distant or future events. This might be explained by torsion fields carrying information beyond conventional space-time constraints. Imagine torsion fields as cosmic whirlpools that carry information like spiraling rivers. The Kozyrev mirror acts like a dam that redirects and intensifies these whirlpools, allowing participants to experience the flow of distant or hidden information. Another hypothesis is that the Kozyrev mirror affects electromagnetic EM fields in its vicinity. The concave structure can focus and reflect EM waves, potentially altering the local electromagnetic environment. Since the human brain and nervous system operate using electrical signals, changes in the electromagnetic field could influence neural activity, leading to altered perception, heightened awareness, or even hallucinations. Moreover, electromagnetic fields are known to interact with biological systems. Studies in bioelectromagnetics show that even weak EM fields can affect cellular functions, hormone production, and brainwave patterns. The Kozyrev mirror may enhance these interactions, making participants more sensitive to environmental stimuli. In some Kozyrev mirror experiments, researchers detected slight changes in the surrounding electromagnetic field, which correlated with participants' reports of altered states of consciousness or physical sensations. Think of the Kozyrev mirror as an electromagnetic tuning fork. Just as a tuning fork resonates with specific sound frequencies, the mirror might resonate with and amplify certain electromagnetic frequencies, affecting the brain's natural rhythms. The psychological and suggestive effects of the Kozyrev mirror cannot be overlooked. The unique environment created by the mirror, its reflective surfaces and isolation, can have profound psychological impacts. Being enclosed in a mirror-like space may induce a meditative or hypnotic state, amplifying suggestibility and introspection. This could explain reports of vivid imagery, altered time perception, or emotional experiences. From a neuropsychological perspective, the brain is highly sensitive to environmental cues. The mirrored surfaces could create an unusual sensory environment, disrupting the brain's usual processing of spatial and visual information. This disruption might lead to heightened awareness of internal processes, such as thoughts and emotions. Participants often report experiencing visions or heightened intuition inside the Kozyrev mirror. In many cases, these experiences align with their expectations, suggesting that the mirror amplifies suggestive and psychological effects. It's similar to the effect of entering a sensory deprivation tank. The lack of external stimuli in such an environment forces the brain to focus inward, amplifying imagination, memory, and perception. The Kozyrev mirror's shape may also influence acoustic properties, amplifying sound waves or creating specific resonances within the enclosed space. Resonance is a well-known physical phenomenon where a system vibrates at specific frequencies, amplifying energy at those frequencies. If the mirror amplifies certain acoustic or vibrational frequencies, it could influence the body's natural rhythms, including heartbeat, breathing, and brainwave activity. Resonance effects are known to have profound impacts on human physiology and psychology. For instance, specific sound frequencies can induce relaxation or heightened alertness. The Kozyrev mirror might enhance these effects by focusing and amplifying subtle acoustic vibrations. In some experiments, faint, unexplained sounds were reported by participants inside the Kozyrev mirror. These could be resonance effects amplified by the mirror's structure, potentially influencing their sensory and emotional states. Think of the mirror as a musical instrument. Just as a violin amplifies the vibrations of its strings to produce rich sounds, the Kozyrev mirror may amplify subtle acoustic vibrations, affecting the participant's internal state. Quantum field theory provides another speculative framework. In quantum mechanics, fields like the zero-point energy field permeate all of space, representing a background energy that exists even in a vacuum. Some theorists suggest that the Kozyrev mirror interacts with this zero-point energy or quantum vacuum, creating a space where quantum phenomena such as entanglement or superposition become more accessible. This might explain the mirror's alleged ability to affect time perception. Quantum field effects could theoretically influence how participants experience time, making it feel slower, faster, or even non-linear. Participants inside the Kozyrev mirror sometimes report experiencing past or future events as if they were happening in the present. This could be interpreted as an interaction with quantum fields, where time and space lose their conventional boundaries. Imagine the quantum field as an ocean of invisible energy waves. The Kozyrev mirror acts like a boat, creating ripples and interacting with these waves, potentially allowing participants to perceive phenomena beyond normal sensory limits. Biophotons are ultra-weak light particles emitted by living cells, including human cells. These emissions are believed to play a role in cellular communication and regulation. Some researchers propose that the Kozyrev mirror amplifies biophoton emissions, particularly those from the brain, which could enhance neural activity or synchronize brain regions. The amplified biophotons might improve cognitive functions such as intuition, memory, or problem solving. Additionally, enhanced biophoton emission could facilitate greater interaction between the body and the surrounding environment, potentially influencing health and well-being. In certain studies, participants inside the Kozyrev mirror exhibited higher levels of biophoton emission, particularly from their hands and head. This increase was correlated with reports of mental clarity and enhanced sensory perception. Think of biophotons as tiny flashlights that cells use to communicate. The Kozyrev mirror amplifies these flashlights, turning a dim glow into a bright beam, enhancing the body's internal and external interactions. The Kozyrev mirror remains an enigmatic device with potential explanations spanning multiple scientific disciplines. Whether through torsion fields, electromagnetic effects, psychological mechanisms, or quantum interactions, the mirror challenges conventional understanding and invites further exploration. While not fully understood, its effects highlight the intricate connections between physical fields, consciousness, and perception. From scientific experiments to anecdotal reports, the Kozyrev mirror consistently produces phenomena that defy easy explanation, pointing to a complex interplay of multiple forces and influences. The Kozyrev mirror is like a prism for human experience, refracting and amplifying subtle forces that are usually imperceptible. Each theory offers a different colour of explanation, contributing to a fuller spectrum of understanding.
We're not supposed to see this.
This is the southwest face of Mount Eppley. Not much to go, maybe 500 meters vertical. It's a beautiful mountain. Didn't take any photos.
This is the viral image that's just been released by NASA after Trump's investigation into government secrets launched, and it's going viral for a reason. Is that the firmament?
Is there an old world power generator hidden beneath Niagara Falls? There was a series of power generating facilities built beneath Niagara Falls, allegedly between 1853 and 1924. There was a lot going on in the 1800s, wasn't there? But could these facilities predate the 1800s by centuries? And they just don't want us to know how old they really are. The power station was still in operation right up until 1956, when it was flooded and collapsed, destroying 2/3 of the plant. But was this simply just an accident? Because it seemed to be working just fine up until then. So could it have been sabotaged by design?
Now, all of that is curious, but I will say this building in Niagara Falls quite got my attention.
Now, officially, they stopped building buildings like this because of efficiency and cost. But do you know how much money in tourism a place like Budapest brings in because they have these massive ancient buildings? Anyone doing the numbers, running the friggin' numbers, you will know that it is an amazing investment to build something like this, but it's not being done today. You know why? Because they want you not inspired, not thinking holy amazingness like this. They want you thinking gray and glass and metal boxes like all the skyscrapers in our cities. They want to take away the individual. They want to put you in a monotonomy. Come on.
When you're in front of it, it is literally shocking how gigantic it is. Very old world. Now, it is known that there's many subterranean parts of Niagara Falls which are closed off to the public. We will not really likely know the full story of this, and I wouldn't even looking in archives, like yes, it is cool to see old newspaper articles about what was going on, but even back then there was censorship, so we may not know the full story until, who knows. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and follow for more.
was there were primarily 9 huge dome cities on the moon, the front and the back. They housed up to 5 million extraterrestrials at one time. There was water, there was vegetation, there was everything they needed. Okay, and these covered hundreds of miles. You know, so when Richard shows you the pictures of the things, you know, the shards, so many miles tall, 9, 10, 15 miles, whatever it is, he's right. He's absolutely right. You know, but there's more. There's more. Okay, next slide. Okay. This is along the equator on the far side of the moon. This is what's left of a pyramid. There are 4 pyramids on the moon. Excuse me. Okay, now I can assure you that the pharaohs, just to practice, did not take the Hebrew or the ivory up here, build one, then bring it back and do it right in Egypt. Didn't happen. According to the Andromedans, almost all the planets in our solar system have pyramids on it. Some have more. I've asked why. Some people say they're tombs. The Andromedan perspective is that these are weights. And what they do is you put them in a strategic location, it balances the rotation of the planet. It doesn't keep it from wobbling, which means that if the ETs are there colonizing, there's no major fluctuations in weather and gravity. Gravity anomalies, as well as the electromagnetic field, which is around every single planet. It has to be balanced. That's what these are for. That's why Giza is directly dead center of the landmass on planet Earth. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, somebody else, I think George Leonard wrote this, somebody else is on the moon.
George Leonard, yeah.
George Leonard. Somebody else is absolutely living on the moon. I am told that there are 35,000 full-time human beings from Earth living on the moon.
At what point has the line been crossed? Are you ready for the real answer? There is no line. There is no line. That's the scary answer. Whatever it takes to maintain control of the technology to make sure that the planet does not get destroyed, that there's no chance that the planet gets destroyed. I tell you what, chat, this is how I'll put it. If you're an American, study zero-point energy technology. Study the hell out of it. If you're not an American, if you're not from a country that's allied with the United States, the last thing in the world you want to do is study zero-point energy technology. The last thing in the world. I'll say, I am super glad that I'm an American citizen. If I was not an American citizen, I definitely would not be alive right now. And some of that bureaucracy protects American citizens, but that bureaucracy does not protect people of other countries. And the CIA basically has free reign to do whatever they want, take out anybody they want that they think is a threat to what they're trying to establish in the future. That's what targeting that plane tells me. There was no Osama bin Laden or Hitler on that plane. There were engineers on the plane. Semiconductor engineers, microchip engineers on the plane. Think about that. They weren't targeting somebody because he was making angry posts on social media. They weren't targeting somebody because they were starting an uprising. They were targeting people because they had intellectual property. They had knowledge about advanced technology. They target it in the most ironic way, too. They use the technology that China and Russia are trying to get. Yeah, it's not cool at all, really, because I realize there's only going to be one owner of this technology. So the moment two factions get this, it's going to be balls to the walls. We're going to see horrors that people have never seen before. Forget nuclear weapons. You guys better not be scared of nuclear weapons. Be scared of just planes disappearing out of the sky, never be seen again. Like, that's the kind of stuff that's going to be horrific, where people are going to be like, well, where'd they go?
The current version of history that we've been told is not only incomplete, it's just wrong. It's just flat out wrong. Whether they were big civilizations in Illinois 10,000 years ago, which there were, by the way. How can we not know that? We sent a man to the moon, and you can't replicate the technology that created. You don't even have a good guess as to how they were built? We don't. We don't even know when they were built. But why would anyone care? For suggesting that our historical timelines were wrong, and there had in fact been advanced civilizations in earlier moments in time, and that they had been eliminated somehow through climactic events, through natural disasters, and that we're not aware of them in any detail. Kind of seems to be true. Well, why don't we know that? And what does it tell us about ourselves and about the past that we don't know? That's what I would think people would ask. But I know that what I learned as a kid is wrong. What do we know about ancient civilizations? And the answer is like basically nothing.
Did you read about Tartaria?
There's a city underwater. Okay, there's a 100,000 square foot biodome on the floor of the ocean, which has essentially been drained of all water, creating a breathable, oxygenated interior on the ocean floor. It's massive. I'm talking 50,000 feet high, miles in circumference. They basically began colonizing it. Okay, first they built cities, infrastructure, laying the groundwork for commerce, effective transportation systems, but it gets even darker. Okay, they didn't colonize it with people who know what's going on. Okay, they took human embryos, right? And they began raising this colony of kids who had no idea of any world outside of this environment, and raised them in here with a fabricated worldview, false beliefs. Okay, they think that that biodome is their entire universe, and anything outside of it is just a completely unknown abyss, right? Like, this is basically a deranged experiment carried out by these maniacs. Like, imagine taking one of those people out of there and bringing them up here. Like, just imagine the shock. Scariest part is there are dozens upon dozens of these biodome experiments down there. Like, they're creating a fabricated mini-universe paradigm where these biodomes are different planets and the people in the colonies just don't know.
I'm saying back to them, like, just trust me. You guys don't understand, right? Like, we've been lied to. Trust me, you'll see what's ahead. They're going, buddy, you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, we're just going to come back up around the other side of the globe. You know, they're telling me we're going to hit the Indian Ocean, Australia, right? They were thinking in terms of the global model. But this is where it gets crazy. You know, as they realize I ain't stopping, one of the other pilots says to me, he goes, listen, you land that thing now, we sign an NDA and go home. Act like this never happened. But go ahead, continue forward if you must, but just know it's a one-way ticket. You ain't ever coming back.
What did you do?
What I set out to. I could see the wall by this point. There was no turning back. And as I fly over the wall, the other jets behind me just hit wide pivots to turn around, and the pilot radios me one last time. He goes, crazy son of a... Good luck, kid. And I mean, look, I just soar off into no man's land. I'm baffled. I'm seeing land masses that have never been accounted for. The navigational equipment on the jet is no longer working, but I know as long as I stay due south, I'll reach Panthea. I'll reach the Dark Continent. And lo and behold, 30 or so hours later, sun goes down and it never comes back up. I start to drop my altitude to get a better view, and there she was. I saw the dark lands. I saw everything that Hemington had spoke of. Look, I landed the jet on a clear landscape, and before I even had a chance to get out, there they were. The Pantheons Hemington spoke of, stepping in slowly. I mean, they were literally surrounded.
What if I told you there's a continent that exists outside the parameters of our sun, a place of eternal night, where an entire civilization lives in absolute darkness? Welcome to Panthea.
Where the hell is that?
Thousands of miles beyond the ice wall. Look, these people aren't cavemen. They're a fully functioning civilization, but one built without warmth, without mercy, without the distractions of color and joy. The Pantheon capital, Nixara, is a sprawling city built from black stone and bioluminescent crystal, its buildings towering like jagged monoliths into the sky.
This can't be real, man.
I wish it weren't. The Pantheons themselves are far more terrifying. They're a horrific biological offshoot of humanity, a version of us that evolved to survive in total darkness. Pale-skinned, almost translucent. Their eyes and bone density are about 5 times larger than the average human. Sickest part is they have energy harvesting farms. They survive off their own people.
Все, друзья, фиксирую ремни и показываю, как это работает. Опускаюсь, вот, смотрите, держу. Вес 90 килограммов, никаких проблем.
Баллоны заполнены воздухом.
Да, легкий алюминий, давление минимальное.
In 2023, an incredible video was captured by photographer Dmitry Lyashev on a flight over Yakutia, revealing a seemingly endless long wall. Following the release of this footage, scientists began scrutinizing the images and concluded that the wall was man-made. The wall extends to the ocean, continuing beneath the water. Surprisingly, no one had previously noticed this wall, prompting bewilderment among scientists. Interestingly, Soviet scientist, architect, and occultist Ludwig Mavrikovich Heinrich, who visited a secret Vatican library in 1920, discovered a book referencing this wall in Yakutia. The wall spans several hundred kilometers. Speculation suggests that the Russian government prohibited aerial photography over the area, and in March 2024, a drone operator filming the wall was arrested. Presently, the government is striving to eliminate all online information related to this wall, leaving its nature shrouded in mystery.
This pilot from Yakutia captured something unbelievable. No one believed his words until they watched this video themselves. While flying over a mountainous area, he spotted a strange strip and followed it to find its end. To his shock, it was an infinitely long fence he had never heard of before. Even more mysteriously, on this wall to be continued at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, dividing the Earth into equal parts. Until recently, you could see this wall on Google Maps, but it seems to be disappearing from there. Divers say that at the base in some places there is severe destruction resembling explosions, and the height is uneven. But the scariest part is that ancient machinery-like artifacts lie at the base of these fences.
Привет, парни, я тут в шоке. Решил прогуляться по территории. Посмотрите, какой забор. Вот это забор. Я просто в ахуе. Сейчас покажу еще. Вот это забор. Вон он кончается.
The North Pole used to be a no man's land, but these are the days when, by buying a ticket on a commercial airliner, you can fly across the North Pole and drink a cocktail at the same time. You know, only 70 or more years ago, about 35 years ago, our guest tonight found out whether there was any land north of the North American continent. He made that first discovery flight, and I must say that Admiral Byrd, our guest tonight, is not only our greatest living explorer, but he's been an inspiration to countless Americans. Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this Earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. And not up around the North Pole, because it's getting crowded up there now, because they find out it's really usable, not only to live in, but militarily. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
That's a tremendous
So
challenge.
there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world.
Well,
Admiral, do you hope to see that?
I do.
Well, Admiral,
Yeah.
would you say that since you've been to both the extremities of Earth, are these expeditions to such far-off places, are they getting easier because of modern techniques, or is danger still close at hand?
Well, it's a little risky, but nothing like it used to be with the old slow planes and the small cruising radius where we had to put down bases. We replaced the dog teams, and of course that was a big improvement. But now the planes go much faster and they are safer, and they have a much bigger cruising radius. You haven't got the danger of a terribly heavy load.
Admiral, an expedition to which I believe you're the advisor is now en route. What is that expedition doing?
Well, that's the icebreaker Atka, and it's a reconnaissance expedition. It's going down to the South Pole area to make certain observations and to look for some bases. They will be back in April, and they will report back, and upon the information we get from that undertaking, we will base the bigger expedition that's to follow.
Is that very definitely planned, or is that...
That is being planned right now. So I'm willing to say to you that there will be a number of expeditions that will follow, I think, year after year, to the bottom of the world, because the government has really become interested.
Well, Admiral Byrd, I can understand, I think everybody can, the interest in the North Pole because it's so near our greatest challenger, Soviet Russia, but why this interest in the bottom of the world? Nobody living down there, is there?
No, it's pretty cold. There's only one permanent resident, that's the emperor penguin. The little ones live further north. I tell you one reason they're interested. It's by far the most valuable, important place left in the world for science. That's why the scientific groups all over the nation are really interested. But more important than that, it has to do with the future of the nation, those to come after us, or even during your lifetime. Because it happens to be an untouched reservoir of natural resources. And, as the world shrinks with an ever-increasing acceleration, far-flung places, once useless, like we thought the North Pole was, and no man's land, become very useful. The bottom of the world will be important, not only to us, but to our allies.
I was going to ask you, does it have military importance?
It has some, and as the world shrinks, it will continue to shrink with an ever-increasing acceleration, thus bringing these places closer. And in the future, I can see a time when it will be very, very important strategically.
Well, has the development of air power increased the strategic importance of places like the
very much
Palma Peninsula, we'll say?
Very much so. Even now, if anything happened and we lost the Panama Canal, we would have to control the islands just north of Antarctica, which are part of Antarctica. Then between there and Cape Horn.
I've heard it said that there are 7 continents in the world, and one of them has never been seen by a woman, and that's Antarctica. Is that actually true?
Well, if the Palma Peninsula is an island, as far as I know, that's true. No woman's ever stepped foot upon the Antarctic continent, and it's the most peaceful place in the world.
Well, I'm sure that won't last very long. I understand now that you're working with the Arnold Bread Company in charge of frozen foods. Now, is there any future for frozen foods down these frozen extremities?
Well, I think the human race can be helped by that. This was thought out by Dean Arnold, who's, in my opinion, a great humanitarian. He learned that we went down there after 4 or 5 years and finished a meal that we had left there on the table when we had evacuated Little America. Everything was perfect, including the bread. So he got the idea of this frozen bread, and already he sent some to Europe, and it worked very well over there for some of the starving people. So you can store it down to the Antarctic and against the lean years, and He wouldn't have any people in the world really starving if he did that.
So in the event of an atomic war...
He'd stay there forever.
Admiral, you speak of the resources of Antarctica. What are they? What are the natural resources there?
Well, we've found enough of coal within 180 miles of the South Pole in a great ridge of mountains. It's not covered with snow, enough to supply the whole world for quite a while.
Well,
that's the coal. Now, there's evidence of many other minerals. We are pretty sure there's oil. Now, that coal shows the bottom of the world. Now, by far the coldest spot in the world. Where that coal is gets 100 below zero in the winter.
Well,
it was once tropical. So we think there's oil there, and there's evidence, probably uranium there.
is it any secret, is there uranium there? That would be the only thing that would be practical to actually go after, I suppose. Everything else would be economically unfeasible, wouldn't it?
Well, as we recklessly expend our resources.
So this country in Antarctica,
what about it?
How long has it been there? Why doesn't anybody know about this?
Buddy, Agarthia is at least 10,000 years old. Look, when we first encountered the continent, they were already there, right? There's really no definitive way to measure how long they've existed, but look, obviously the highest ranking intelligence authorities are well aware of this place, okay? And the restrictive Antarctic treaties are the reason nobody else is. Look, the Agarthians, they don't want us in. They live within a city built on inconceivably complex architecture, okay, pyramid-based energy systems that are reminiscent of ancient Egypt. Look, things we don't understand. We do believe that they have trade routes which lead through and beyond the ice wall, okay, connecting them to civilizations far out into the depths of the unknown lands, right? They are the bridge to a world which we have been closed off from, okay? They control the entire goddamn parameter of the ice wall. We've been studying them for decades to the best of our abilities, but it wasn't enough, and so, well, the CIA did the unthinkable, right? They captured a native Agarthian.
So the government captured one of these native Antarctic people, or Agarthians as you call them, and interrogated them.
I mean, look, they had been studying this rogue country within Antarctica for decades, right? Of course they captured one of the natives. How else were they supposed to get any information on the place? Look, regardless, the things that they found out in the conversations that followed suit, right, were just, it puts history in a different perspective. Let's put it that way.
Wait, they were talking to this person?
Well, look.
I mean, wouldn't these people speak their own language?
Buddy, just because they have their own native language doesn't mean they don't understand others as well. Look, after they detained him, right, they figured he was going to speak in some kind of uninterpretable tongue, so they sent in a linguistic expert by the name of Pete Richards to do the interrogation, right? And so Pete sits there asking him all kinds of different questions, right, about their society, about who they are, but the guy just wouldn't say a thing. He was completely silent, right? Up until the point where Pete pulls out these pictures the agency had taken of this country's pyramids, right? And he sets the picture down as he says, "Can you tell me about these?" The guy didn't really budge, right? Like he didn't want to engage. And so Pete says, "Listen, we've seen structures like this before." He pulls out an image of the pyramids from ancient Egypt and shows it to him. And for the first time, the guy's expression just completely shifts, right? Like he was seeing something that he'd somehow seen before. And as he's staring at the image, he goes, "Second." Pete's just shocked this guy had finally spoke, right? And as he's just staring at him, a higher-up agent in the room quickly says, "Pete, what the hell's that mean?" And with a kind of just wide-eyed, shocked expression of disbelief, Pete says, "It's Egyptian. It means old friend."
Wait, so you are telling me there are time travel portals in Antarctica?
Yeah, so not portals, a rift, a tear in time itself. It doesn't behave like a normal portal. It pulls people in, then spits them out somewhere else in history. The Nazis found it first in the 1930s, buried deep under the ice. They sent a team in, and for weeks, nothing. Then some of them came back, but they weren't the same. One soldier was decades older, another was missing an eye, but reports say he never lost it in the first place. They spoke of seeing cities that don't exist yet, and ruins of civilizations that never should have been. That's why the Antarctic Treaty was signed in 1959. They told the world it was about peaceful research, but really, it was to keep people out. Every satellite image of the region is redacted. Every unauthorized explorer, gone, without a trace.
So anyone who enters could end up anywhere in time?
Exactly. Some return before they even leave. The worst part, sometimes people return twice for entertainment purpose only.
sequence at the 8.9-second mark in the countdown. The engines will build up to a thrust of 7.6 million pounds. T-minus 30 seconds. We have a cutoff. We have a cutoff at T-minus 30 seconds. We're standing by at T-minus 30-second mark. We'll bring word to you just as soon as we get it. We have a cutoff at T-minus 30 seconds.
Automobiles and dirty telephones. People running everywhere with nothing much to say. Chattering away to anyone who listens.
Please call Linda at 404-508-8842.
If only we could sit and have a drink, you and me, and talk about the benefits of living in the sea. Appearing every now and then to look up at the sky, breathing in the air, not bothering to wonder why. I'm glad that I could speak with you, my friend. Don't know if I'll get the chance again. The planet that we live on has been cut in two. One side for me, one side for you. One side for me, one side for you. One side for me, one side for you.
Number is 415-273-1935.
Please call Linda at 404-508-8842.
The number is 415-273-1935.
I was strolling on the moon one day in a merry, merry month of December. May, the May, that's right.
I'm glad that I could speak with you, my friend.
When much to my surprise,
don't know if I'll get the chance again. The planet that we live on has been cut in two.
What? Where are the reflections? I've been forewarned.
One side for
There
me,
is orange soil.
one side
Well, don't move it till I see it. It's all over. Orange. Don't move it till I see it. I've stirred it up with my feet. Hey, it is! I can see it from here. It's orange. Where did I put my visor up? It's still orange. Sure it is.
people running everywhere with nothing much to say.
I've got to dig a trench,
Chattering away to anyone who listens.
It really is.
404-508-8842.
Same color as temperature at a tip is about 100 temperature at a tip is about 102. It's almost the same color as the LMP decal on my camera.
And talk about the benefits of living in the sea.
It's trench time.
Appearing every now and then to look up at the sky, breathing in the air, not bothering to wonder why. I'm glad that I could speak with you, my friend. The planet that we live on has been cut in two.
Effectively turn our country.
One side for me,
Get the opportunity to watch the
one side for you. Mine is the planet of the atom bomb, automobiles and dirty telephones, people running everywhere with nothing much to say, chattering away to anyone who listens.
Call Linda Axport 50842.
If only we could sit and have a drink, you and me, and talk about the benefits of living in the sea.
American challenge of today.
Appearing every now and then to look up at the sky, breathing in the air, not bothering to wonder why.
We leave as we came, and God willing as we shall return.
I'm glad that I could speak with you, my friend. Don't know if I'll get the chance again.
seeing this, you have been chosen. There are clues placed all around you, hidden in plain sight. If you can uncover the path, another world awaits you, where anything is possible.
Have you ever wondered what would happen if all the great thinkers decided to get together and actually change the world for the better? And the result was, well, miracles. Who are you? I'm the future. They're coming. She's full of surprises. We have to go! That place I saw, it exists? Of course it does. But if you don't come with me, it won't for much longer. Dreamers need to stick together.
There's really no way I can prove it without revealing my identity and getting myself into more trouble than I have already.
Exactly what's going on up there?
Well, there's several, actually 9 flying saucers, flying discs that are out there of extraterrestrial origin, and they're basically being dismantled. Some are, well, in various stages of completion, built from other parts, and they're being test flown and basically just analyzed.
I was 29 years old, working on the most incredible project in the history of the world. No one has ever been able to show exactly what I saw with my own eyes, until now. Let's travel back in time to December of 1988 when this all started.